Do you know that many African countries don't even print their ballots? We must start with that. If we don't print our ballot papers in Germany, we are printing them in Greece. If we are not printing them in Greece, we are printing them in London. If we are not printing them in London, we are printing them in Paris. We don't even trust ourselves to print a paper, which when we throw in the ballot and it's counted, it is useless. It has more security features than our currency in Africa, because we don't trust each other. So I'm suggesting to this assembly here that the time is now, because elections in Africa are life-threatening. And the question is, why are they life-threatening? Permit me, Madam Chair, before I get into the crux of my matter, to just walk you around Africa now to see what is happening. In South Africa, some South Africans are walking in hospitals and expelling their fellow Africans, saying they should go back home. In Zimbabwe, there is a group called Mutuakazi who want to change and to create their own country. In Zambia, the former president is dead. They are worrying and quarreling in South Africa as whether he should be buried at home or not. In Malawi, they are going through an electoral process, and it is the same. In Tanzania, it is the same. Just this morning, I've read a letter written by the opposition leader who is in prison, lamenting about the charge that he faces, the charge of treason. In Kenya, our elections are 2 years away, and you'd think they are tomorrow. And only 2 days ago, people are already rising against each other from an ethnic perspective. In Uganda, it is the same. You are buying votes using motorcycles and rice and t-shirts. In Sudan, they have degenerated. They are killing each other, and the opposition leader declared himself a president. There are now 2 presidents in that country. In South Sudan, the same. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, the former president is being tried in absentia and is facing treason charges in the Democratic Republic of Congo. In Central African Republic, there is a leader who has extended his term, but for the Russian military would be out of power. In Libya, there are 2 governments. In the Sahel, in Niger, in Mali, and Burkina, there are military governments. In La Côte d'Ivoire, the president has extended his term. That is the state of our continent. And every time we face elections, there are threats. It's Chinua Achebe who said, when you see a toad jumping into the daylight, something is after its life. Something is after your life. That's why you are congregated here. You fear that if we continue on this trajectory, people will rise against each other because they belong to different tribes, because they belong to different religions. You fear that women will be molested because of elections. You fear that politicians will throw each other into jail and some will be killed because people are seeking office. That is why we are assembled here. And we are assembled here to wonder what it is that we can do to immunize ourselves from the pain that election visits upon us every other circle. That's why we are gathered here. Many times when I look at Africa and I look at how this continent was so very cruelly divided in 1884, not for the benefit of Africans, but for the benefit of the colonial powers. And when I look at the process of decolonization, it is as if Africa was designed to fail. The post-colonial African nation was never designed to succeed. And that must be at the back of our minds. So that when we grapple with the problems that we have, we must contextualize them in history. How is it that our countries were so arbitrarily divided? How is it that our institutions were undermined? So that when we talk about the traditional kingdoms, they were undermined. They lost their value. How is it that foreign systems were imposed on us? So that when we use words such as democracy, I normally ask people to think in their mother tongue, think in Luganda, in Busoga, in Topadola. What is the equivalent word for democracy? And if anybody discovers it, tell me. Because we have our own words of defining and describing governance. So, I very reluctantly use the word democracy. I use the word governance, because governance we know. And when I talk about elections and their impact in Africa, I go back to 1963. In 1963, 32 African countries had regained their independence. The leaders gathered in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and each one of them spoke. For Uganda, the person who spoke was Apollo Milton Obote. He was then the prime minister. Of course, Kabaka Mutesa was the president at that time. He dispatched the prime minister Obote to be president. Each one of them recognized the need to rethink governance in Africa. Kwame Nkrumah naively thought that Africa would unite very quickly and that the problems would disappear. In 1965, he writes a book which he calls Neo-Colonialism, the last stage of imperialism, and he proceeds to say the most dangerous. Some say that it's because of that book that 1 year later he was then overthrown in a military coup d'etat. In other words, Africans had started getting dissatisfied with inherited systems. So soon after we regained our independence, the election that we are talking about in Congo in 1961, no sooner has Lumumba, for whom I am named, been elected than 9 months later, he is killed. 1961. And Congo has never been the same again. In Togo in 1963, Sylvanus Olympio is also assassinated. And it has never been the same again. In Nigeria, there is a coup d'etat in 1967, and it has never been the same again. In Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania in 1964, simultaneously there are mutinies. And of course in Uganda in 1971, there is a coup d'etat. And it's only after much problems in 1986 that the NRA-NRM government comes into existence. Pain in Luero. Pain in different parts. The administration then takes the view then that perhaps there is a problem with governance. And Uganda has what is called a no-party system. But Europe and America are quick to tell us that those are not democratic. And somehow we believe them. Somehow. So after the collapse of the Soviet Union, every other African country is told democracy means Europe and America are telling us. If they are not telling us from Washington, they are telling us from London or from Brussels or from Paris or from whichever capital. They are telling us, you must have multi-parties. You must have civil society. You must do as we say. And Uganda does as they say, like other countries. You reintroduce multi-parties. You have a constitution in 1995 which is founded on yet another Eurocentric model, liberal democracy. Liberal democracy. In the intervening period, and this is significant, in the intervening period, Europe does not do away with their monarchies. They don't. They have monarchy in the United Kingdom. They have monarchy in Sweden. They have monarchy in Denmark. They have monarchy in Spain. They have monarchies everywhere, except, of course, Portugal and Italy and France and Germany for reasons that we know. But they tell us no. And we believe them. So whenever you look at this, the lamentation is necessary, but we have come of age. We can no longer afford the luxury of driving this vehicle with the help of a rear mirror. Going forward, what do we do? And that is how I understand the question of building trust. We are here as people who mean well for Uganda. During breakfast, I was telling my hosts that those who are religiously inclined, and this is a story that is also known to Islam, the story of Elijah, whom I'll refer to as Elijah or Elijah. Elijah governed or was a prophet during the times of a person called Ahab, who had 450 prophets of a god called Baal. And his wife would not want to be left behind. She also had 400 prophets of Asherah. But there was a prophet of the Almighty God called Elijah, who in modern times, if he was diagnosed, they would say he had mental health issues. He was suffering depression. So he wonders what it is to be done. Real. What does he do? He hears voices. He goes into the cave and he challenges the prophets of Baal to a duel at Mount Carmel. You slaughter your bull, I slaughter my bull, and we call upon our God and we see which God is going to succeed. The story is well known to all of you. He tells God, his God, that everybody has knelt before Baal except him. God tells him, no, you do not know. There are 6,000 others. You are here and I are in the same position like Elijah. Those who intend to do good never collaborate. But the evildoers know how to network. You ask those who are in the drug business how they network, from Mexico to Colombia, to Venezuela, to Guinea-Bissau, to Uganda. They know how to transport cocaine. But do we know how to transport and export good manners and virtues and values? No. We judge, we say, I'm good, I'm born again, therefore I'm going to heaven alone. So that good manners are not infectious. I'm urging you today to make good manners and good values infectious. If there is a disease, if you allow me, which should be a pandemic, it should be the disease of good manners. And I'm using the word disease deliberately. We must infect ourselves with good manners. And good manners starts with how we choose leaders. On what basis are you going to vote when the voting comes? Is it one from your tribe? Is it one from your village? Is it one from your religious group? Is it one who has bribed you? Ask those fundamental questions. Here in Uganda, those of you who are of the Christian extraction will remember there was a time when even the Church of Christ was confused, and there was something that is called, I think it was called restoration or something. And the song that you heard was Tukute Tenderes. Yeah, yeah. Someone I can dig. Yes, someone I'm locals. The revival. We need a revival so that we can have a political tukutenderes. Political tukutenderesa is what is going to liberate Uganda. East African revival. So until the day that we have our own political tukutenderesa, we are going nowhere. And that tukutenderesa spirit must be fed to every politician. Because all African politicians, almost without exceptions, have scales on their eyes and wax in their ears. We must do something to melt the wax and to make the scales to fall down and to tell them that leadership is a position of trust. You know, if you read history, there was a Russian leader called Joseph Stalin. It was said of him that he was larger than life, almost as large as death. We must tell politicians that they are not larger than life and not larger than life, and that there is the coming and going, and theirs is to do their... The elections in Uganda are not unique and different from other elections in the continent of Africa. We have seen it in Kenya, in different countries. Violence appears to be part and parcel of our electoral processes, and electoral processes are tended by violence, by cutthroat competition, because the politicians see elective positions as positions of material aggrandizement. We must liberate the politicians from the belief that their role as politicians is to use any means necessary. We must redefine leadership. When we redefine leadership as positions of trust and responsibility, then the politicians will themselves be liberated from using violence. They'll make the political process one where their ideas are subjected to scrutiny and they are elected on the basis of those ideas. Until we do that, we will always have violence. Until we do that, we'll always have conflict. Until we do that, we will be poisoning the political chalice to the detriment of the society, to the detriment of this generation and generations yet to be born, and therefore to the detriment of our countries. Liberate yourselves from greed. Liberate yourselves from seeking power at all costs. Liberate yourselves from the spirit of seeking things that will not help the country. Liberate yourselves from seeking power for power's sake. Embrace trusteeship. Embrace citizenship. As the Greeks used to say, in any society there are tribalists and there are idiots and there are citizens. I'm asking all of us, not only in Uganda, in the continent of Africa, let us be citizens who do things that are in the best interest of our countries and that makes our countries great and makes Africans great and respectable throughout the world. It can be done. And it must be done. There is little to elaborate. I know, for example, friends of mine who are clergy no longer allow politicians to speak in the church. When you come to church, you are congregant, you worship and leave. If you want to hold a political rally, you go and hold it somewhere else, not in church. Why is it that they do in church? They don't do it in the mosques. Why? It's because some, not all, of Christian leaders have been bought over by the political class. The time for liberation is now. Criminalize all forms of bribery, whether the bribery takes the form of a bag of rice whether it takes the form of cash, whether it takes the form of food which is offered, easier said than done. But it is being done in other countries. Why do we in Africa think that things must be easy? Nothing is easy. When you want good things, you must work for them. So let us not say that because it has been happening. For how long has it been happening? It has been happening for a very short time. So if you criminalize and punish people, part of the problem in Africa is impunity. People kill without consequence. People maim without consequence. People loot without consequence. The day we begin to punish people, that is the day people will begin to know that if you do the wrong thing, then you spend time in Luzira. We are wearing borrowed clothes. We inherited a system which was bequeathed to us by the colonizer. We are using the ways of the slave master to liberate the slave. It can never happen. We must redefine governance. The day we define governance, with the day we redefine governance and go into our systems and pick the positives out of there, that is the day we will begin to move in the right direction. And there are no instant coffee solutions. There are no microwave solutions. It may not happen in your lifetime, but let us begin.
Maybe talking about elections, is that not the right time to talk about these elections and to maybe to amend the issues that need to be fronted? When is the right time?
There is a saying in Kiswahili that when you want to travel on Friday, you start preparing on Thursday. That, I believe, is sufficiently indicative of what must happen. Electoral processes are processes. Remember, it is a process, not an event. It starts with voter registration. It continues with voter education. And the casting of the ballot is merely not the end of it, but what brings us to the end, which is the counting of it. We must have faith in the entire chain. And once we do that, people will begin to have trust. And it varies from country to country. Why is it that Germany, with a population of 82 million, counts votes in 8 hours, and African countries with voters that are not 12 million can't count? It takes them days. It is because we have no faith in ourselves. We have no faith in our systems. And when you have no faith in yourselves, you can't produce a result that is acceptable to the critical mass. Let's ask ourselves, what is leadership? Leadership is service. And women are not present in electoral leadership as they should be, not in the numbers that we would want, because we have made the process so violent, so toxic, that they don't want to participate. Women, when they attend rallies, have to wear jeans and trousers and running shoes, because you never know when a stone will be thrown. The day we make the environment one in which my mother, my sister, and my brother and other people can participate on an equal basis, and my wife, my daughter can come with high-heeled shoes in the knowledge that after sharing ideas, she'll walk comfortable. That is the day that we will have women, because it will be a contest of the minds, not a contest of who can hire more goons and who can throw stones better. That day must come.
Professor, our election
leaders are critical. Whether it is the electoral process as bequeathed to us by Europe and America is a debate that Africa must now engage in. It would appear to me that in Africa, elections give birth to death and violence. So the time is now for us to be courageous enough to ask ourselves, what systems of governance will immunize ourselves from this pain? For the moment, we have lemon, let us make ourselves lemonade. Technology and machines are manipulated by man. They don't act of their own motion. And if men and women are dishonest, technology will produce dishonest results. So the first thing is to deal with values and virtues of the men and women behind the machines. Artificial intelligence is good for those who are honest. It is a good servant and a bad master. That is the nature of technology. It is like the knife. You can use it to cut meat and eat meat, and you can also use it to kill. Choose you now how you use the knife. To kill or to cut meat.
Fortunately, Imam is my name. Much as I do also the religious part. And I don't want to speak for the religious leaders, but I want to give an action because they have been referred to. And in most cases, correctly. But where is the problem with the religious leaders? It is the followers of these religious leaders have themselves abandoned their leaders to the political masters who have the ability now to maintain their status quo or what they need, and therefore subject themselves to those leaders. If you want your religious leaders to change, and if you have trust in them, first help them on rediscovering themselves from the survival mode to the service. Because the problem has been they want to survive, and they want to survive the way you are surviving. And you have abandoned them, except a few. There are a few who collect from there, but largely the followers, because of mistrust, you have abandoned them. Then they have to look for. I have seen from my faith, people just because they have been sponsored to go and do the minor Hajj, minor, which is an optional thing. It is not like the major. It is optional. When they reach the Kaaba around there, they just pronounce the names of those that have, and they don't see any mistake in the way they are leading the country. This is a big problem. And therefore, when the politicians have understood this, they have now taken the opportunity. Like Chwana told you yesterday, that they look for where loopholes are. And then, you wait, what will maybe come from the traditional leaders. You have seen how people were gathered in the Mengo there, a plot is bought for them, they have been promised to construct a big building for them, and you hear some of them the way they now talk about the institution. Therefore, if we abandon our institutions and we don't put that confidence in them, assure them of the next meal, then don't blame them for crossing over. Actually, those who resist it are sometimes considered not to be proper. Equally to the academia. I am one of those people. I am in the academia because I do teach at the university. But I have said it once again, once and every other time, that look at our universities. Which university has any engagement to shape policy in the country? When he stands up, he's suspended. And therefore, out of that fear, everybody calls down. I am very certain, this room, situation room, I know the academia, who probably, even if they were not invited out, if they had learned about, they would have just come, so that they are the value. But they are all, I told you, they are in the transit. They are in the transit waiting for the next flight. And the next flight is soon coming after the elections. They want to become ministers, they want to occupy whatever, they want to occupy to be the vice chancellors, and because of that, everybody is quiet. I want to thank Professor Lumumba because of what you have told us. It has really reignited my thinking, and I'm very hopeful that if we do what we can, we shall. The reason, the problem, the biggest challenge that Africans have, we want to do what we want, and we live what we can afford. In the process, we miss both of them. Until we agree that let us do what we can, we shall survive, we shall be able to reach where probably your aspirations. May I don't talk about dreams. Those dreams don't come. May I talk about aspirations. Thank you so much.
Book number 1 is Redefining Leadership by Taka Awori. Taka Awori is a Ugandan. She's written a wonderful book, which I believe, thank you very much. I'm recommending that book to anybody in Africa who wants to talk about leadership. The second book is written by a Nigerian and talks about elections in Africa, The Selectorate, Chidi Ansem Odinkalu. Chidi Odinkalu has written a book called The Selectorate. It talks about elections in Uganda, Kenya, and everywhere else useful. Now to what I think is important, and this is something that I shared with Mama when I talked to her, Mama Luanga. In 1997, I was part of something similar to this. And what we did was to prepare a document called the Peace Card, which talked about the things that one should and one should not do. And we collaborated with the media houses. We persuaded the media house that twice every day, in different languages, they talk about the value of peace. I think it is important to do that. The religious leaders must also, and I believe they have a religious council, it must be that at every Salah, Ijuma, you make pronouncements that speak to peace. In every service, make pronouncements that speak to peace. And if you did this, you would be sending a clear message. During the electioneering period, particularly we of the Christian extraction, ban politicians from speaking from the pulpit. Ban them. So that the messages that come from the pulpit are messages spoken ex cathedra, not to be contradicted, and they're about peace. That I believe is immediate. I also believe that young people should organize themselves around the activities, the academies should do so, and of course, in the short to medium term, then we should go into redefining citizenship. Who am I? I think it is the Greeks who said they are citizens, then they are tribalists, and then they are idiots. We must liberate people from tribalism and idiocy and make them graduate into citizenship. I believe the rest of the issues are things, and of course, engage the politicians. I hope that the proceedings of this deliberation will be shared with the leaders of all political parties, will be shared with the Speaker of the National Assembly. Whether they act or not is another debate. You will have played your part. Thank you very much.